Scott, are you talking to us? Can you hear me? Bianca, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good evening. Welcome to the June 1st, 2021 work session of my Borough Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold,
Here.
Mr. Brinkley,
Here.
Ms. Vaqueros,
Here.
Ms. Osterhout,
Here.
Ms. Powers,
Here.
Ms. Ride,
Excused.
and Borough Council President Friday.
Here. Thank you. This is the time that we invite registered speakers. John Kakalis is here. Please step forward on the X and state your name, address, and then your comments.
My name is John Kilkellis. I live at 350 Pennsylvania Avenue. Just like to comment on, I was involved in a recent traffic accident on Howland Street. I was at Bakery in the high school on 3rd Street, going across Halton. I was headed towards McGinnis's on Allegheny Avenue, but I was crossing 3rd Street, crossing Halton to get to the other side of 3rd Street. There was an opening between traffic stopped by the school, and there was an opening to proceed. We stopped, looked for traffic, and started to proceed very cautiously and going maybe 1 or 2 miles per hour. And then all of a sudden, it was clear, all of a sudden a car came and hit us, and it's estimated the car was going about 50 miles an hour, which would be in a school zone. I don't know if the 15 mile an hour light was still flashing. The accident was around 3:30. We were, as I said, we were headed, I guess that's east across 3rd Street. The car hit us so hard, it turned us around facing to go over Halton Bridge. My son spent 3 days in the trauma unit. He's off work for a month. My car is totaled. The other driver's car is totaled. You know, as I'm sure you all try to work to come up with something, pleading that something be done. I think, I don't know when, like, if there's a barrier that remains up on 3rd Street, that will stop cars from making a right on off of Halton. I don't know what time it gets removed. But it gets removed 2 to 4 o'clock. It would stop cars from making a left from Halton onto 3rd Street, and it would permit cars just to make the right to go up Halton Road off of 3rd Street. And it needs to be clear that I understand now, but I was not aware of that. It was, at least wasn't clear to me. And every person that I've explained it to, everybody is under the assumption that you can go straight across 3rd Street. It needs to be the circle, as it is no left turn, the circle and a line through. You can't go straight. Without that, it's unclear whether you can go straight or not. Some type of designation needs to be there to say you can't go straight. The barriers would solve that. I don't know. They're not to question anybody, but I don't know why to take it down before 4 o'clock. That permits people to make the wrong turns. If those are out, nobody's making illegal turns or going the wrong way. You know, even 3rd Street, that's a school zone actually, because it's right in front of the school. The speed limit is at 15 there. There isn't a it's for even more where kids probably are king. So those are my comments, and I really hope something gets done, because this should have been an avoidable accident. You know, now. Or understand now, but I must have talked to at least 50 people. Everybody said, I didn't know you were allowed to go straight there. So nobody understands that. And the guy was speeding drastically. I mean, whether he should have been 115, but at the most, he should have been 25. It was so hard that he turned the car and totaled 2 cars. So those are my comments.
Very sorry about your son. Injuries, and relieved that he will be okay.
Yes.
3rd Street is an area of concern for us, and we are taking a serious look at it. We've had meetings recently with PennDOT, and it's definitely on our radar, and we are giving it our full attention.
Yeah, I mean, I had the accident on May 14th. It's my understanding there was an accident on the 13th and on the 15th. So 3 days in a row, 3 serious accidents. Hopefully something happens in the next month that this takes time with PennDOT to understand. You all have been looking at this for a long time, but it's way overdue. I mean, my son could have, he could have been killed. So, thank you.
Now is the time in the agenda where we hear comments from the public. And Borough Manager will read any correspondence.
I do actually have one, Madam President. It was sent to me today at 3:30. And this is a follow-up on an email exchange that you may have received directly from an individual about putting dog waste containers throughout the borough. And if you recall, I asked a bunch of questions about the whole program itself. Good afternoon, Scott. My initial question is if the borough would be interested in the Etta Dogs Daycare and Lower Valley Athletic Foundation purchasing dog waste stations to install in the borough. They're offering up to buy 4 of them at this time, will increase throughout the years if needed. We ended up installing 4 waste stations ourselves in Verona Borough this week. Yesterday, and we cemented the posts in, and Thursday we'll bolt the stations in. They require 14 inches of cemented concrete. Etta's would take on the responsibility of emptying the waste stations, starting at least 1 time a week and increasing as necessary, disposing in our business garbage at no cost to the borough. Ideally, they would install these as early as July 1st or as late as the end of the month of July, depending on the supplies, and let anything know that we need from them. All my best. We can talk about this later. Administration is perfectly fine, or I can follow up now, Patty. It's all up to you.
Does anybody have any feedback to the letter?
My only concern about them is in the specification she sent me, was the exact same mints. I've placed the metals other places. There are no vandalism whatsoever. They're used very well. But what we do see is individuals that take bags for themselves and just keep going and not using the dog, because the doggy waste does also provide a bag, a roll up, the rolls that you would see people carrying. But they take a bunch, put them in their pocket and then go off, and then they may bring them back and use them someday. But that I have a feeling that the replacement bags is going to be something that'll become challenging for them to get upkeep in the long run. It's not major. There are vendors out there on CoStars. You can buy them in bulk at the case. You just have to buy the right size, that's all. I still suggested 2 places in Dark Hollow Woods, but there's already ones there. These individuals are actually willing to put them in the downtown areas, Alligator Boulevard, and maybe a couple blocks back from the Alligator Boulevard area. My biggest concern always with something like this, okay, pro forma, maintaining afterwards, and the bag replacements, that's about it.
Do we have a problem with dog waste that's reported on a regular basis throughout town?
We do not. I've not been told, and usually comments come to my office about something like that, and no, not really.
Would there be advertisement on the device that would be promoting a business?
She did not indicate that there would not be. There could be. I can clarify that.
If there was an issue with them, I mean, they'll just then take care of the cost and taking them away.
Most likely, yes. I mean, the board, the responsibilities, they're bearing all the responsibility on their own. And they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart and their soul and their pet people. I just, it's 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, if the machines are run down. Again, it's a big sign with a dumpster on the bottom of it, a garbage can, that's all. It's always gonna be the maintenance of it. No, not really, it's outdoors. It's not loose. It's, you're bagging it up and you're putting it in there. But it's just, 1 time a week. Okay, we were doing ours every couple of days. So I think that's something you have to monitor. Dogs aren't allowed there.
I would think if we were solving a problem, that would be a good idea. And the problem is in the woods more than any place else.
I think we need to finalize some of the locations. And right now, Dark Hollow Woods is the only place where pets are permitted in general. So, and Bianca, to help you out, the name is Stephanie, Stefani, Garibay, Garibay. No address. That's all I have in their correspondence.
Okay. In your packet was a copy of the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 17th. Does anybody have any comments or corrections to the minutes? So we'll continue to review them. If anything should come up, we'll have them for approval on our scheduled meeting on June 14th. Discussion items by the borough manager.
Thank you. Under appointed boards, in your packet of the May minutes from the Oakmont Boulevard Project Group who met last week. After this packet was publicized and released, I met with Joanne Stewart based on some of the topics inside the minutes themselves. The biggest item we're looking at besides the paving of the Trail Amber is the grant was turned down again for the replacing of the streetlights along Alligator Boulevard. They are still, as a group, adamant about getting them replaced. We are trying to exhaust other avenues. They have reached out to Representative Del Rosa's office. And there's a communication glitch because they said, we'll write a letter of support. And the answer is, we've been turned down twice from the same grant. What else available out there for us? So Joanne is starting to figure out the other options. So that's going to be our focus for the rest of the year is how to get a funding stream in place, whether it be cash from the borough through the budget or if there's grant funding opportunities.
Am I right? Either you said so or someone reported that there were no such grants approved in Allegheny County.
I did hear that. I think Joanne explained that to me, that no Allegheny County municipality received any of the grants that were funded through the multimodal project submitted for it. Nothing under the library report. I expect their bids to come probably next week. Recreation Board, the bid advertisement for the relocation of the parking lot work, as well as the trail repairs, as well as the trail extension behind the Felino property to the south, is in the process of being going through the Trib Live website. So that's moving along. We did a soil sample test on Friday with streets crew and told to call the president and an engineer from Senate to review the conditions of subgrade. We sent the photo array to the developer of the pump track. Essentially, they want to see what's there. The goal is for a grade entrance into the pump track for bikers as opposed to an elevated grade. So the lower they can bring it down to grade, an entrance is better. The information that Tony forwarded to them came back with very optimistic and very happy results from the design team. So we're just waiting back to see what they do with the specification on depth and all that fun stuff. Shade Tree, I lied, we actually met today. We met with the developer of Oakmont Place to review the mitigation plan proposed for Oakmont Place for the tree removals on site. In the ordinance, chapter 205, which is our zoning ordinance, there are provisions about mitigating trees that need to be removed for development as well as preservation. The developer is very open to relieving as many perimeter trees as they possibly can based on grades. Also, he is amenable to making a contribution to the borough as based on a restoration plan for trees. That donation would go directly to Shade Tree Commission's work to complement the budget that we already have for them. So we can use that as a drawdown to add to a program that we're already funding through the budget process. We expect at least a partial payment before the end of the month. And Renee and I are working how to put that in the budget so you can see it there. Once the development is underway and they see the actual mitigation that they'll have to do based on tree removals, they'll adjust the second payment towards the escrow towards the Shade Tree Commission. Brian was there along with Phil. Help me with his last name. Phil Fraley was there as well. They talked about trees, but they were really grilling the developer about everything else we would grill the developer about. Time frame, we don't expect any dirt to be moved until third or fourth quarter. They're still waiting on their permits. They're still waiting on their HOP from the state as well. So imagine, yes. And it is stormwater related. That's all we have under appointed boards. Any specific questions or any boards I did not talk about? First time under administration is, in fact, the Holton Road 3rd Street intersection. Last Thursday, Mike Ford, and jump in anytime you think I can speak. Okay. We met with Representative Del Rosso, as well as 4 representatives from PennDOT, Mr. Miller included, as well as the school superintendent and 2 of the principals. PennDOT, in essence, we're going to write a letter to PennDOT. They're looking at all avenues to improve upon the safety of the intersection, both from a pedestrian as well as a vehicular standpoint. They may eliminate one of the crossings across Holton Road. There's a school side Holton crossing, and there's a bakery side crossing to go across Holton to 3rd Street. They'd entertain the idea of eliminating one that forces everybody to one central location because cars see one crosswalk, they're missing the other one. We did discuss the restriction of right in, right out with a permanent barrier in the roadway if the roadway fits the width to do so. So that if you're coming out of the bakery, coming out the Holt Road, you'd be forced to go up, make a right onto Holt Road and going east. If you're coming out the Speedway side, you'd be forced to go across the bridge. There's no cross traffic permitted anymore. With that, and Amber was likely nice enough to blow up the drawings for me. If I'm a visitor to the bakery or the football field, the park, and I know I want to go back across the river, I'm now going to be using 3rd Street, the Archie, the Allegheny Avenue. We need to adjust the timing and the sequencing of the lights, or we're going to have jam-packed traffic like we do worse now. So PennDOT was open for us to study the sequencing of Allegheny Avenue if in fact they change the traffic patterns across 3rd Street, because you're now taking everybody on 3rd Street and dumping them at the intersection of Allegheny Avenue and Holton based on which way if they want to go across the bridge or that screws us up. It's early in the talks. My letter to PennDOT, I'll share it with Kate, I'll share it with council, but essentially is identifying these are concerns related to pedestrian crossings. So we want to enhance pedestrian safety, traffic restrictions and control. So it's related to reconstruction of the intersection to readdress it, and anything else we can think of. And there are more enhancements to the pedestrian that we can do, meaning we have strobe lights now, there may be more strobe lighting. They do strobe lighting in the ground in Mount Lebanon. There's maintenance issues with it, but the technology is getting better and better. You actually light up the crosswalk, so as you're driving, you might see the strobe, but also the street's lighting up at the same time. It's at the elementary school on Route 19 on the part of Mount Lebanon, if you ever cross paths with their engineer from.
So if the other option would be to close off pedestrian traffic completely at 3rd Street
That is a fourth option, yes.
and direct everybody to go to the light.
Everyone with the light, yes.
Because right now with crossing guards, everyone is in the habit of crossing right there at 3rd Street. Some of these solutions might be challenging to adopt, but in the long run, there is something we have to do.
If we were to close out pedestrian crossings, essentially, if you're familiar with Oakland, how they do the fence along 5th Avenue across from where the former Children's Hospital used to be, we'd almost have to put up a little fence that, oh, I've got to go that way, as opposed to people walking around the fence. But that'd be a learning curve, absolutely. So again, early stages of conversation. PennDOT said, please give us a letter within scope, and they will work somehow into an agenda to do studies and come back and tell us how we can move forward with something.
The engineers will be out this week. I just got an email this morning to monitor Allegheny Avenue, Allegheny River Boulevard, and Halton, because it's been a little messed up since COVID hit. Halton Road seems to be a little more clear than the avenues. So they sent an engineer out this week, and he'll be monitoring it so they can adjust the light cycles to see if that alleviates some of the traffic. The other suggestion they made that Scott, we talked about was, instead of the 2 flashing signs we placed in, one of those would have to be moved if we closed the crosswalk. The one towards the bridge would be moved up almost parallel, across from each other. And they would, that way, you don't have, right now they're 50 yards apart. So this would make the one crosswalk a little more. But the other thing is, an overhead would be much more efficient than the 2 things on the side. Motorists actually see things in front of them.
There's a lot going on.
Right, they don't see as many things on the side. So that was discussed as well, was an overhead warning.
And I think they did concur with the signage that's around the intersection based on timing restrictions and when you can and cannot turn. Mr. Miller, in fact, opined that the first thing you do is you look at your phone or your clock to see what you're doing as you're approaching the intersection to make sure what time it is. So there's a lot of language in those signs that might, by the time the motorist makes a decision, we're already too late. So it's like another distraction. So we'll keep you obviously in the loop on everything. And if there's any site meetings back, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Yes. Oakmont Place planning module in your packet is a procedure the borough has to follow in order to amend our 537 plan. Am I correct, Amber?
Yeah.
Okay. This module essentially is a resolution passed by council acknowledging that we have a 537 plan, which is our sewage plan for the borough. That Oakmont Place is now changing some of those numbers, but that to the positive, it's not impacting it. We have to do anything dramatic. Essentially, we have sewage availability for this project. So the paperwork included with you is the transmittal letter, the PennDOT, the letter requesting what we have to do, and the draft of the ordinance resolution itself. So to keep DEP happy, we'll say it will follow the same template. We won't change anything around when it comes to the resolution. And this information, PennDOT will then update, PennDOT, DEP will update essentially our permits that we're allowed to contain in our 537 plan. What am I missing?
No, you said it beautifully. You're just saying that you have available capacity at your treatment plant and you can accept the additional flow from the proposed development.
So it's a procedure we have to do for the developer, and we'll do it next month.
You said it has signed off on all this.
Hatch Engineering actually did it. Hatch Engineering is a sewage entity that handles the mathematical calculations for the plant itself, as well as the other permitting we do through DEP. So they have signed off on it. A lot of paper associated with that. I can certainly send it to you if you'd like a copy of it. Okay. Okay. Bianca, oh, I gotta let Bianca back in a minute here. Give me one moment. Her internet crashed on her. She said she'd catch up on YouTube.
There she is.
Sorry, I just looked at my phone. Well, we're done now, so we're okay. No, I'm just kidding.
I was watching on YouTube. I know that's not true.
Okay. And one minute, please. Okay, in your packet, the next item is the school district to send out their letter for the annual Light Up the Park night in October. This is the annual night. They have homecoming. They have a sporting event on Thursday, football game at home on Friday night, and then the homecoming is on Saturday. Traditional letter.
There is an issue with the second paragraph here. They're requesting the auxiliary police and do not mention requesting the real police. So we may want to respond to that.
I could talk to Michael Flynn about that.
So is this any mechanism to get them to pay up?
We'll talk. Superintendent, I talked out in the intersection. I said, I will be, when I have a pause on my schedule, I'm going to talk to him. Since Nancy's not here, in the packet, you have the warrant list that was dated as of May 21st. I have a fresh, all these reports have been refreshed. Oh, I missed a social report. I'm sorry, Kate.
That's all right. I'm saving my talking for executive session this evening, so you must have been.
I want to save your strength. That's right. Thank you, Patty. Nancy is out. I just want to let you know that we have updated the warrant list, the balance sheet, the budget report for end of May. This was done. This balance was done just to get the report out of time for the packets. I can send you certainly a new copy of the warrant list and the other budget reports by email if you'd like. That's not a problem. They're in here. Under outstanding accounts, I did want to share with you that Thermo Twin has paid. Bear with me. They mailed the letter, they mailed the check to Pam because that's the default address they have in QuickBooks for payments. And when I called Pam's, they had my cash it up for 3 weeks because the check was made out to Keystone Collections. So I called Keystone Collections and the vice president was on vacation when I called him, but anything that comes from Pam's comes to him directly. So they will send us the check and we'll give it back to Thermo Twin and have them make all the corrections so we can pay. And the payment is for the 2020 road program that they owe us for the asphalt work. So yeah, but we're chasing it down. Street sweeper, this is a reminder more for me than for council. We have a transaction where we take $10,000 and move it to from general fund into the reserve account. I've slipped my mind back in May, so this is my refresher that come in 2 weeks. We will in fact take this action by motion to move that money across, and that's earmarked to start saving up for a new street sweeper. In your packet,
Do you think, when Carol Moore was here as assistant borough manager, she successfully secured a grant for leaf collecting machine? I don't know under what department that was or how she located it. Do you think it would be worth someone looking into see whether there's such a thing for a street sweeper?
we can investigate. I know that Carol got the grant through the 904 grant application, which is the Act for Recycling. And that's the state collects funds for that based on the tonnages they recycle. That's how the fund was put in place because it was used for recycling. At least was counts. So we'll be going. We can certainly investigate that. Absolutely. I'll talk to our representative. She likes food stuff. So
Good.
okay. In your packet, council is a project for you. If you can get it to me by end of this week. We're starting the foundation of a true 5-year capital budget plan. And Nancy, Patty, and Dave and I met separately, and there's a timeline of hopefully having you at least a skeleton by June 11th for your regular meeting. I need it to be a week later because I'm leaving for vacation on June 11th, so I want to get to you sooner. The intent is for you is any projects that you've thought about that haven't raised to me directly, whether it be short-term or long-term goals. And if you need more copies of this, I'll start to give you more copies. It's a blank, what you see here. But I also included everything that we have historically been doing in our budgeting process. And these are in the third page of the third or fourth pages is we always call everything below the line. And if you recall, those are all the projects that we've identified from input from all the committees, from staff, and maybe some other projects we knew were always there, just never accomplished. And some of them can be maintenance, meaning every other year it's mulch for the playground. Every 4 years it's going to be resurfacing fence works or something like that. It's like we're going to update this to include a running track 6 years from now. Yes.
I have a question. It's not directly on this, it sort of has it there. The river walk around Edgewater, who's responsible for maintaining that?
It's going to be a joint effort. They're going to mention edge for River's Edge versus Edgewater.
Well, the thing that goes from Plum Creek up to California, I think.
I have to read the developer's agreement. There is some maintenance that's going to be taken over by the River's Edge Homeowners Association, and some of it's going to be taken over by the borough. And my gut is telling me we're going to be in charge of the asphalt, but they might be charging lawn maintenance around it.
Yeah, because some of the asphalt needs work.
Yes. Definitely in front of Edgewater, that area. Yes.
I'm not really appreciating it, isn't it? That it's-
I think it's frost upheaval.
It's the runoff from the hill.
And just sort of general deterioration in some spots.
So my ask of council is looking at the third and fourth pages of everything there. If there's anything that you thought we may have missed or you've always thought about doing, incorporate, please give me just say, I'm thinking about this, we can incorporate it in there and find pricing. It's not an exhaustive list. I know there's things on here that I've not talked to Renee about adding, but this template's going to change. This is just what we've been carrying around with us in the budgeting process. It'll be a totally separate budgeting sheet. It'll be something council would pass annually based on that column of that current year. And those projects, that time the general fund budget's already in place. We know what capital projects we're doing. That decides a lot of it.
Since today is Tuesday and you're asking us for Friday, I propose that we push it into next week.
And then if my dates have been maybe crossed too. That's fine. 8th or 9th?
Yeah, I think that would be,
Okay.
for me, a better date. I don't know about anybody else.
The
I
9th.
think my request is already on there.
Just what?
I guess what, the one thing that was like kind of in the front of my mind, we're dugouts down at Riverside Park for the baseball fields, but that's already on there.
Okay, you said Friday the 4th. I'd like to push it to next week, either the 8th or the 9th.
Let's pick the 9th then.
Okay.
Email, hand delivered as perfect. Under community planning, there is nothing to report. Planning commissions are still working on a comprehensive plan, and now when Kristen's ready to come back to another step. Public safety, the mayor has to be excused this evening. I do not have a copy of the most recent fireman's report yet. When I get it, it will be part of the next packet. Under public works engineer,
Good evening, council. If it's okay with you, I'm going to stay seated.
Sure.
See everybody. I only have a few things to report, beginning with item number 9. That would be the Chateau Beach Kayak Park. We submitted the NPDES permit to the County Conservation District, and they responded with a list of comments. So we will be addressing those comments and resubmitting the permit package to them shortly. Keep that ball rolling. The next item that I wanted to talk about is item number 20. That's the sinkhole on 7th Street. So we've executed all of our contract documents with Felino, and we had a pre-construction meeting at the site. Felino hasn't provided me with definite scheduling yet, but it is a 60-day contract and they're aware of that. And they say they hope to start mid-June. And they will let me know a few days in advance so that I can have an inspector out there to make sure everything is going the way we want it to go. So I expect that work to begin, somewhere middle of June, towards the end of June. And I only expect it to take maybe 3 weeks most. We should be able to get that done fairly quickly. And next, item number 26, your 2021 paving program. I'm sure you've noticed that we started the work. It's gone very well. The streets have really held up, as far as base repair not being necessary. We have some concrete curb work that we're going to do on Washington, down by the intersection of Washington and Allegheny Avenue. We will be doing that next week. They originally told me this week, but their schedule changed. So they're going to begin concrete work next week, and then finish with the wearing course when they're done with the curb. And then we'll follow up with line striping and curb backflow. So everybody can relax for another couple weeks. The project's not over yet. We will be backfilling and landscaping and restoring everything back to its original condition. So that work is still ongoing. Item number 29 is your Oakmont Borough line striping program. The work has been completed. We did have an inspector on site to work with parking lot painting, and they did the majority of the work at night as to not disturb the traffic on Allegheny River Boulevard.
I have a question for them.
Sure.
Received an email about a pedestrian having a trip and fall accident crossing Washington from Carabella over to Quittville.
Okay.
Is it Quittville? And I haven't gone to look at the site myself, but the way it was described to me is, I think the way it was painted, it looked as though it was the person interpreted it as a flat handicap access to the sidewalk, and I guess it was a yellow curb. So I don't know whether there was a mistake at that particular part or the pedestrian misread the painted cut there.
Now, is this concerning the ramp?
I think there's a little bit more of a toe. It's not as flush as it could be. I think that foot caught the edge.
Along the ADA ramp.
Yeah.
Near the,
It's not completely depressed between the street and curb.
see there only, yeah.
Is that what you think happened?
I think they caught their foot.
So, I mean, you can give me more information on the side, but we can see if it had anything to do with the line striping or just the nature. The ramp is a little bit elevated. It shouldn't be.
Okay.
But yeah, the ADA ramp is installed incorrectly there. So we can address that. For sure.
Thank you.
We can definitely take care of that. But the line striping project went well, and they just emailed me an invoice in the amount of $37,147.05. So I will be issuing Scott a letter of recommendation. And we've double checked all of their quantities, and they do match up with what our inspector has reported. So everything looks good. We'll be issuing a recommendation to go ahead and pay that and close that project out. Lastly, item number 30 is the Arboretum Trail in Riverview Park, the proposed paving that we're thinking about doing in those locations. We finally emailed Scott all of our cost estimates. So the trail is roughly $8,300. Riverview Park, we did measure up that access road going down into the park because the asphalt is deteriorated there, and that's around $10,500. And then the trail separately was around $8,000. So you can do whatever you'd like, of course. I mean, you can give me a scope of work with one of those items, all of those items, two of those items. And we're aware, be aware that if the total amount of work we propose to do is over $21,300, we'll have to go out for a formal bid process. But if we keep it between $11,500 and $21,300, then we can just proceed to get 3 quotes. So Senate will still put together a bid book with construction specifications if we go out for 3 quotes, but we won't have to formally advertise. So any combination of those, you know, we will await to hear council's decision on which way we want to proceed with that.
Do we have money specifically in our budget, Scott, for that?
Arboretum Trail did. I have to double check about a Riverview. I believe we did because we had quotes from John in the fall.
Yeah, because I seem to remember that there was money somewhere and talking about using it to pave the trail, but I don't remember how much.
Exactly. We had a maintenance fund that was, maintenance line that was still available. It was untouched. And I think when John got the quotes from a contractor, just based on his measurements, his numbers are around the same numbers as Amber's is, so we're pretty good. We'll have an answer for you by the work session about advertising. Okay. Okay.
Am I correct in assuming that that's the entire Arboretum Trail or not just
Yes,
portions of it?
well, it is portions. We walked the trail, we assessed it, and we measured the areas that need to be addressed, where you have, you know, the roots.
And you walked it with a member of the Arboretum of the Boulevard Project
We
Group
did.
who identified this much that needed to be worked on, said and said, no, you better fix this much.
It
There are
would
areas.
make sense to do it, while, you know, while you're out there paving, it would make sense to add a few more areas. And we also added to the proposed ceiling, crack ceiling.
Do you have a sense of like what percentage of the trail is going to be resurfaced? I mean, I'm not holding
You
you.
know, I could determine that and get it to Scott.
It's not a big, I mean, is it more
We
than
can
half
calculate
or
it,
is it?
but-
or-
No,
Okay.
It's probably like between 10 and 20%.
Okay.
But where you have a real trip and fall hazard, if you're worried about trips and falls.
I don't know anything more specific.
does anybody have anything else for me?
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
The intersection of Pennsylvania Avenue and Cedar Way, going south. The trucks that come out of Chelsea Products cut that corner.
Yes, we did.
And you had given us a bid for fixing that, which I think 17,000 maybe, I can't remember exactly when it
No,
was.
that sounds about right. I know it's on my list.
I have a question about perhaps an alternate solution.
Okay.
I don't exactly know what your original solution entailed.
It was just replacement in kind. It was building back up the section of the road and doing, kind of widening the radius though, but replacing everything as it is.
Because as it is right now, there's a sidewalk and a handicap access.
Yes,
Right,
and I believe we were going to widen that, like we were going to cut back the sidewalk so that
Okay.
they have more space to make that turn and move the curb back.
Okay, if we didn't at this time choose to do this, because it's really not in our budget, could there be plan B? For example, fill that corner radius with riprap. So when the trucks turn that corner, instead of continuing to create that pothole there, that they would, their wheels would actually go on gravel.
But we could absolutely do a temporary repair in that area, yes.
And
Yes.
similar to what was in front of Chelsea Products.
Bring the whole to grade.
Right, so that it could be done in-house under,
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like, yes, Mike and Scott can definitely do that.
okay, so maybe we could put that on
Sure.
some to-do list because it's getting worse and worse and worse and
Worsening.
worse. Yes.
Yeah, they could definitely make a temporary repair, bring that area up to grade and go from there.
Yeah, fun doing it, so, you know, we can talk to them about it.
Right, they had done this work. They repaired the side of,
Everybody, they just go showing on the side,
Right.
yeah,
and it hasn't budged at all.
right, so they can certainly head on down.
Thank you.
Council, I just wanted to, you know, let Amber know, thank you. The paving program has been smooth as ever. And the line striper program, literally no hiccups. I happened to stop out after our one meeting and we literally had no phone calls or any inquiries about anything. There's the only one phone call we had is they were doing a move in and move out of residents on East Street. Shields through Senate direction worked around their schedule, and we've had nothing but kudos for everything, especially having them put up the signs ahead of time and us doing a text alert. There were no surprises. So, but thank you for you and your coworkers and your staff that listened to you and took care of everything for us.
Thank you.
Give me a moment. My computer decided not to cooperate. I'm done.
Okay,
By the chance.
council remarks. Let's go backwards tonight. John, do you have any remarks this evening? Mr. Franklin? Mrs. Osterhout?
I have two just real quick things. The first one's a question, Scott, and so it's just me asking the question. I noticed, and I was wondering if the street sweeper does water, because I noticed, and they probably can't help it, but the garbage trucks, now that it's summer, kind of spray a smelly water on the streets.
Right.
So I didn't know if that's something that the street sweeper, when they go through, they're kind of washing it, or if we're kind of stuck waiting on rain.
It does for dust controls when the water goes down. It's very minimal at most. It's more of a vacuum than it is a sweeper. It sucks it up, so it just keeps the dust down. What we're seeing in the trucks is the yard waste bins, and the people collecting residents collecting yard waste. Some of the lids are not open or closed, so it's collecting rainwater. Some using water to pack the grass down so you get more out of it, and then dumping it. The trucks are equipped with drain plugs at the bottom of it. So when the hauler lists for everything, puts the waste into the tailgate, at the very bottom of the tailgate, there's a drain plug that should be in place. Sometimes they fit, sometimes they fall out. We had a problem in the Wade Lane area of Oakmont about 2 weeks ago when we narrowed it down to a crew and a time frame in the day. So the vice president of operations is working with them to do it. They did come out one occasion and sweep everything. Next occasion, the rain actually beat us to have them do it. So we're monitoring the yard waste.
You're on it, so.
It smells like elephants at the zoo.
Yeah, it does sound very bad.
That's a decomposing yard waste. And mostly yard grass is what it is.
Okay.
That's the smell we're getting. And I have driven it and said, yeah, it's pretty obvious.
And I did look at the trucks and I can see it's just like kind of water, and I thought there might not be anything I can do, but at least if I ask them, that's the answer.
The goal is if there was no water in the bins, it's okay, but that's not happening.
I'm not surprised to hear that. I thought one of the answers might be people need to secure their lids. The only other thing I just wanted to say, and probably no one in YouTube land is even listening, but thank you to all the people that put together the parade this weekend. It was just so nice to see the community out. So I wanted to say thank you to all of them. I have nothing.
Mrs. Vaqueros?
Not at this time.
Mrs. Powers?
Yeah, I had just two notes. One of them was about the garbage also. I just noticed it particularly on 9th Street, the whole way down a trail of it. And I noticed it for 2 weeks in a row. So I don't know if that means it couldn't have just been yard waste. But it was hard to bear while running by the smell. So, so just mentioning that again. The other one is I had a business owner who is going to be impacted by the road closure of as a result of the 5K. They reached out and said that they're having a really hard time getting specifics on the timing of that road closure. And I know, in the past, and she asked me if we asked for like businesses to sign a petition, and I'm not sure that we ever requested that for this one, but just I know that we've done that in the past, and so part of it is, that's like, I'll take blame for that, but trying to remember that anytime there's a road closure, we should require that the business requesting the closure has communicated clearly with all of the businesses that might be impacted. And I was wondering if we could just reach back out to whoever's in charge and get the specifics of that. Because this particular woman said that she couldn't even find like current information about the race online anywhere.
Certainly.
And that's all that I have.
My only comment is the Rotary put up a legion of flags all along Allegheny Avenue that had a very striking look for the Memorial Day weekend. And I think their plans are to put them up for major holidays. And it was a fine community service project that really looked very inspiring. So I thank them for their project. That's all. It's another time in the meeting where we hear comments from the public. If there's anyone that would like to come up to the front and share any concerns. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. We will adjourn to executive session.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.